Awesome. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining TNG Online Connect. Bang on 10:30. Let's go. So obviously the whole purpose of TNG Online Connect is to widen your reach amongst not just your region, but to members all across New Zealand. And TNG is certainly growing. We're certainly getting some members all over. And next fortnight, when I'm in Australia, if I join in, then it's international, right? So it's going to be great. So obviously, welcome to TNG Online Connect, and the whole purpose of it as well is to bring guest speakers in front of you who can really educate and empower our members to do some cool things. And obviously, talking about guest speakers, we've got Karl Craig West, who's going to be sharing with us today. So, and what he's going to be sharing is the ABCs of marketing. So 3 simple steps to improve your marketing results. 3 is an easy number to remember, so looking forward to this. So Karl himself, he helps Auckland small businesses learn how to market them through his Auckland Business Builders Club. So the Business Builders Club is a mentoring and membership group designed to help move you and your business forward. So obviously you are a big part of your business, so if you can improve yourself, improve your business, it's all correlated. And I think I'm confident to remember 3 steps. So perfect, Karl, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm gonna share my screen in a minute, but one of the things I wanted to just sow the seed before I get going is the ABCs. The ABC of marketing is what I consider to be marketing fundamentals. So it's the first one is your audience. I'm going to talk through that, who you're selling to. The second part is your broadcast, your brag, or your boast. What are you trying to say to this audience? And the last one is the channels that you use. And the channels are things like going to networking groups, for example. It's online advertising, marketing, your website, business cards, flyers, leaflets, anything you do that puts your broadcast in front of your target audience. And I'm going to come on to those in a minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm literally going to talk through a few slides. I will ask that you start to think and perhaps make a couple of notes for a couple of seconds. And I'm glad Sally's here because I'm going to pick on Sally as a good example in a minute. So what I'll do is just share the screen. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yep, we can see that.
All right, now where's it gone? That's the question. I had it a minute ago. Here we are. So right, so here we have the ABCs, getting your marketing right. So quick brief about me. Hang on. I started my first business at 19, doing property maintenance. Absolutely loved it. Made a bunch of money. Drank it all away, as you often tend to do when you're young. And since then, I've been in and out of self-employment, doing a variety of different things. And a couple of years ago, I moved over to Auckland and started Auckland Business Builders, which is a marketing club, and I'll talk about that towards the end. I've written a book, as you see there, Smashing Self-Employment, which you can buy on Amazon. I've done loads of talks and seminars at all kinds of gigs. If you look top right, you'll see me in the Houses of Parliament. I was a lobbyist on behalf of business community. Bottom right, I'm speaking at a Google event. The bottom left photograph, I'm speaking at a national conference for the self-employed with 4,000 delegates. And in the middle, that's me speaking at a guest speaker at a trade show. So I've done a lot of stuff. It's almost always around marketing and business development. I occasionally do stand up. I am a former world record holder and I am banned in the USA. And I'm not going to go into the details, but I'm no longer legally allowed to go back to the United States. So anyway, enough said. So also done lots of stuff. So I'm a rugby referee as well, father of 2. I'm an improving surfer. I'm a rubbish guitarist and I absolutely love it. Top right is the earliest photograph of me in Amsterdam. I don't remember that weekend, but I'm told it was a good time. Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff. I'm typically very, very active and I love getting out into the community as well. So first things first, if well, 1 or 2 of you might have seen my seminars and networking events, and I've done a few at TNG. if you get to grips with doing marketing every single day, you will eventually outmarket your competition, hands down, because nearly no one does. In my experience, fewer than 1 in 10 small businesses and self-employed people do marketing even 2 or 3 times a week consistently. So when you get to grips with doing marketing every day, there's a lot of things that will change. And part of the ABC is to get it put into place to develop a system. When I got to grips properly and started doing marketing every day in my last business, which was a web design business, which I owned for 10 years before moving over to here. When I started doing marketing every day, properly organized, systemized marketing, we doubled our sales in just under 9 months. And the turnaround was just phenomenal. So I went from only just scraping by in the business to actually doing quite well, and eventually became known as the best, most innovative marketed company in the whole county. And I'm going to talk through some of the steps that we did as I go through the seminar. But if your most important takeaway today, if you can go away and do this, make a system out of your marketing, I promise you it will make a massive, massive difference. I've seen it done. It happened to me. I've seen it done with others. It works. So do some marketing every day. So first of all, like I said, the ABCs of marketing: audience, who you're selling to; boast and brag, what are you saying to them? I'll come on to WIIFM. And the channels: how on earth are you putting your broadcast or your boast or your brag in front of your audience? Now, one of the things I've seen when people start businesses, they do this the wrong way around. They start with the channels, they get some websites done, they'll spend a bunch of money on a website, some business cards, etc. They get some social media channels up and running, they go out to networking events. And only a minority of small businesses will fully understand who they're properly selling to. And then they wonder why marketing doesn't work so well. Because they've done it the wrong way around. They haven't spent enough time working out who they're selling to. So here's where it gets interesting. Always start with your audience. Do you know who they are? Do you know where they are? Do you know what their problems are? Do you know how you're going to help them? Do you know what their frustrations, their stresses, their problems, their desires and wants are? Do you know where they are in their stage of life? And you get to choose your audience. But one thing I can say with absolute certainty: if you try selling everything to everyone, you'll sell nothing to nobody. It just doesn't work. And to give you an example, I did a seminar a number of years ago with business startups, and a poor guy sitting in front of me, I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm a gardener." I said, "Great. Who's your target audience?" And he said, "Well, anyone with a garden." I thought, okay, let's go to the local social housing estate and knock on some doors, because they've all got gardens. And he said, "Well, hang on a minute. A lot of them people are on low incomes." Right. And they might not be able to afford a gardener. Yes. So you want people with money and gardens. Yes. I said, okay, well, let's go to the suburb of Oadby on the edge of the city. We'll knock on some doors. And he said, "Well, there's an awful lot of old people that live there." I said, "Well, they all have gardens." And he said, "Yeah, but a lot of them do their own gardens." I said, "Oh, right. You don't want old people. You don't want poor people." Okay. And we went through this exercise, and it turns out that his ideal target market were working families with kids who enjoy their gardens, who don't have time to look after them, but have disposable income. We also developed a location demographic of all of the little villages on the periphery of the city, because they were typically populated by that kind of person. So he completely changed, even without getting on to doing anything else. He completely changed his marketing approach by properly identifying who he was trying to sell to. Pointless if you're selling a service, marketing to people who can't afford it. It's pointless trying to sell a service to people who, quite frankly, are never likely to buy because they do it for themselves. So, and so on. It's pointless trying to sell a service to people who are too far away if you can't get there to deliver it. So it's all about understanding who you are trying to reach. Now, the reason I mentioned Sally at the beginning is because Sally's target demographic for recruitment is very, very well defined. And it's unusual to meet a small business with so clear a target market. But what that enables Sally to do is to be clear on what their challenges are. It also enables her to be clear about how to find people in her target market, because they're well and truly well identified. It also means that she can craft a well-developed broadcast or message for her target audience that can be consistent across the whole of her target audience. And it also means that she'll be able to identify clearly the channels needed to reach that particular sector. So I strongly recommend that you spend time on this. You start here always. Now, when I started my first business at 19 years old, I was a mentee for the Prince's Trust. And the guy who was my mentor was a retired businessman. He got a very nice car, so he must have done well. And he simply said, well, go where your audience is. You do maintenance on houses. Where are there a lot of older houses which are more than likely to need a spot of maintenance? Well, it just so happens I lived in an area of older houses. So I printed up some business cards and went knocking on doors, direct to the customers. And every single time I knocked on doors, and I just simply said, look, I've started up a property maintenance business. Have you got stuff that needs fixing? Almost every day I won business because I went direct to the customer where they were, put a message that was really, really simple in front of them, and used a channel, and I'd identified who they were and where they are. And I used a channel which is, literally in their face, talking to them. And that's a classic example of understanding your target audience and going where they are. But until you nail this, you're going to have challenges. Now, just a quick caveat, it's okay to have more than one audience. If you sell to different types of people at different stages in their lives, or at different demographics, this is all called demographics, then it's okay to have different audiences, but you will need different messages, different broadcasts to put in front of them. So don't be afraid, don't try and just lump everybody into one. You can have more than one, but you need to bear in mind that your broadcast, your post needs to be applicable to that target audience, and it's okay to have more than one. Okay, next part, a broadcast. Now here's where a lot of people fall down, even if they've got their audience done well worked out. The key thing with a broadcast, your boast, your brag, or your message is to try and help you to stand out from your competition. Now, I hate to break it to you, but the whole USP thing, unique selling proposition, is a fool's errand. There are very, very few unique businesses on the planet, very few. So the idea is to think in terms of another little acronym, MDSA. Now it sounds like a virus. It's the measurable difference, specific advantage. What's different about you to everybody else? What do you do differently? What's not necessarily unique, but what do you do over and above your competition? How do you try and stand out? Why are you so good, as it says? Why you? Why not someone else? And the sooner you can identify this and then put it in front of your target audience, the better your results will be. A lot of people just go out and say, well, I do this, 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 and this, and we're located in X, and I've got 750 years worth of experience, and yeah, whatever you need, I can do. Well, that actually tells me nothing. Doesn't tell me anything about how you help people. Doesn't tell me anything about why you're so good. Tells me nothing that nobody else could do. So, and this applies to your 60 seconds at networking events. Why you? Why not someone else? Now that WIIFM at the bottom left there means what's in it for me. No one buys anything except maybe handbags and golf clubs unless they can see something in it for them. Everybody buys things for a reason, and it's up to you to try and put you in the frame to be the reason they buy. What is it I get out of doing business with you? Now, this is what I see 90% of marketing falling down. We've all been to networking events where somebody stands up and says, and I hate that. Got any accountants in the room? Oh, who cares? Accountants are typically the worst. So I'll stand up, I do accounting and bookkeeping, and I can help you with your tax stuff and your compliance stuff, and been in business, for X number of years, and we've got offices in the north of the city, and you're there sitting, think, well, so what? What's good about that for me? How are you helping me to make my life easier? How are you helping my business to become more profitable? How are you helping me to pay less tax? How are you helping my administration to be more straightforward and the bookkeeping to be less painful? Typically, you don't get much of that. Now, I know that Abby's listening and she's probably taking notes here, but this is what I see over and over again when I go to networking events. So people just talking about what they do, how many years they've been in business, and where they're located. In all honesty, no one cares. What people understand is what's good about you and how can you help. Now, I know it sounds harsh, but ultimately, we are in a competitive market, and there is no business which doesn't have competition. So you've got to try and stand out. You've got to try and get across that WIIFM as much as you possibly can. What's in it for me for doing business with you? How are you going to make my life easier? How are you going to make my business better? How are you going to make me, have less stress, less pain, more joy, more happiness, more of what I want and less of what I don't? That's what people buy. So work on this. Once you understand your audience, and this is why doing the audiences first, because once you've worked out their frustrations, their wants, desires, you can begin to frame what it is you offer into those desires. And here's where you start to picture your message, your broadcast in front of them. But it always starts with, what's in it for me? What's good about what you do for me, were we to do business? I'm not just going to buy because of what you do, because there are other people who do what you do. Tell me why you're different. Why are you so good? Why not someone else? Okay. Yes, what's in it for me? So why should I do business with you? How are you better or different? How can you make my life or business better? Okay, key questions to ask in all of your marketing, not just your website. You could even have some of this on your business cards. Definitely when you go networking, any flyers you put out, emails you put out, all your social media. Why should I do business with you instead of someone else? And onto the scene. And this is the cool and sexy bit. This is where a lot of the marketing people tend to talk up a good game. And what I find very frustrating is a lot of marketing folks they'll build you a website, but they won't talk to you about who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to say to them. They'll get some Facebook ads underway for you, or some Google ads, or a marketing strategy using all of the channels, all of the things that you're going to use to get the word out there. But until you fully understand your audience, this is likely to miss the mark. Yes, it will get a response, but it would be much, much better if you understand your audience and what you're trying to say to them first, so you can use the channels that are appropriate to them. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. A lot of people jump on the bandwagon of the latest, hottest topic. So I had a discussion a few months ago with a guy who was a financial advisor selling to the under 30s. And he's getting great results out of using TikTok, okay, which is great. And he said, well, you should use TikTok. And I said, well, why would I do that? Because I sell business to business, and typically my target audience are well and truly above the age of 30. And they're not on TikTok in any large number. So why would I spend, because I understand my target audience, why would I spend time and effort on a channel which is going to not really reach them? But a lot of people do, misunderstanding that starting with your audience, the channels become fairly straightforward. Where does your audience hang out? Where are they? And I use the example of, would you put a lingerie ad in a football magazine? Yes, some people might be interested, but it's not the target demographic of people who typically, I'm not saying that footballers can't wear lingerie, I'm sure some do, but typically the audience is not there. It's not reaching an audience. And I had a chat with a guy yesterday who was asked to spend money in a local newspaper advertising. Well, he sells to schools. I said, well, how many head teachers and sports teachers are likely to read the newspaper? Not many, very few. And even more so, how many are likely to see your ad if it's on page 14? And even if it's a half-page ad, how likely are they to see it? So the numbers don't stack up. So you always need to work out where your audience goes. So if you sell to consumers, and they're under 30, for example, TikTok may well be a good channel. It probably is, but it takes time and it takes working out. Facebook and Instagram are quite good, but Facebook and Instagram are just bunging stuff out there. Is almost, I hate to break it to you, almost a waste of time unless you're going to spend some money on advertising. Always make sure your website is well optimized. It can be found in the search engines for your target audience. LinkedIn, if you sell to businesses, is the channel to be on. And you need to spend time there. You need to develop a network. There is a methodology. Email marketing. If you're not doing email marketing, you are shooting yourselves in the foot. It has one of the highest return on investments for how much effort it takes to do. So almost always you can do email marketing pretty much no matter what your audience. I was speaking with a guy last week who runs a finance business in Wellington. He's got 20,000 people on his database. He's never emailed them. I mean, talk about shooting yourself in the foot. It's low-hanging fruit. So to email these people, you might have lent them money in the past, but it doesn't mean they're not going to borrow money again. So look at the channels. How are you going to reach people? Going to networking events is great, but what do you do with the information you gather? Do you follow up? A lot of people don't, even if they say they're going to. So it's all about understanding your audience. When you understand your audience, you'll know where they are. You should know where they hang out. You know, one of the interesting things about social media is how it shifts. So a lot of young people are not bothering with Facebook now. So the number of people who are under the age of, say, 20 to 23 are not really going on Facebook in big numbers. However, the silver surfers, the over 50s, are going onto Facebook in big numbers so they can keep in touch with friends and family more easily. And also spy on the grandkids who are leaving in droves because they don't want nana and granddad spying on them. So the demographics are changing. So once you understand your audience, you can quite readily put messages out in front of them. So, and there's loads. So have a think about where your audience are. Where are they? Where do they hang out? What's the, you know, what channels do they likely use? You know, if you know your audience use WhatsApp a lot, for example, you can do advertising on WhatsApp. There are loads of ways of doing this. But it all comes back to understanding your audience. Now, just in case you're wondering, and this is recorded, here's a quick list of some of the things you can do to reach your target audience. There's only 63, and that is far from exhaustive. So no one should be saying, well, I don't know what to do. That's not an excuse for doing nothing. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of potential methods for reaching a target audience. And oftentimes the headline ones are not always the best ones. I use YouTube a lot. I did a seminar on Wednesday on video marketing because I know that YouTube gets great results. The cool thing is that fewer than 1 in 20 small businesses even contemplate it as a channel for use as a social media. But it's the world's second largest search engine. It's the most used. It's the second most visited website on the planet. Why would you not want to be there? So there's lots of things. Pinterest, if you sell to women, Pinterest is a fantastic place to be, for example, because 80% of the audience on Pinterest are women. And it might have fallen out of fashion, but it's still widely used by millions of people around the world. So there's a lot you can do to reach your target audience. There's no excuse, but it always comes back to knowing who they are, where they are, and working out a route to most directly reach them. And ultimately, and this is copyright material, you should have a marketing system. Every aspect of your marketing should connect with every other aspect of your marketing in some way, shape, or form. Your website should not sit alone. It should be helping you to reach customers. It should be helping you with social media. Your paid ads should be pointing there. Your Google business profile should be pointing there. Your email marketing should be pointing there. And your social media should not sit in isolation. It should point into other places. So no matter what you do, nothing stands alone. The idea was to develop a system where you are getting into doing some kind of marketing every day, and you are consistently reaching your target audience with the post that's applicable to them and helps you to stand out in some way, using the channels right for them. And you get to choose. Ultimately, you get to choose. Don't just jump on any bandwagons. So just because everybody's hyping it up doesn't mean it's going to be right for you. A few years ago, a friend of mine who was a social media expert was banging on, oh, you got to get into Clubhouse. I'd never heard of it. And so I thought, okay, well, let's wait 6 months and see where it is. Now, even fewer people have heard of it. It just went by the wayside. But if I jumped on the bandwagon and into all the hype, I could have spent a lot of time and effort on a channel which was often, well, as it seems, going nowhere. So There's never nothing to do. There's loads and loads of avenues to reach your target audience, as demonstrated here. Work on developing a system. A marketing system will enable you to more readily put marketing out there every single day. You'll know what you're doing and when. You'll know who you're trying to reach, using which channel, and with the right broadcast, boast, or message. So that's it from there. I'm going to come on to questions in a minute. Just a quick thing about the Auckland Business Builders Club. It's a membership system. You get one-to-one help. You've got an online system. The idea was to help you develop your own marketing system applicable to you, your business, and your target audience. Got some online trainings as well. Once a month, we get together in a seminar and networking event, and that's all included. So membership is just $147 a month, but your first month is just $75. And as the Japanese are particularly good at pointing out, Kaizen is the art of constant improvement. What you're not aiming to do here is to change massive things in a massive way. You're aiming to change and improve lots of things in little ways. Dave Brailsford, who is quoted here, was the most successful cycling coach in Olympic history, the most successful cycling coach in Tour de France and world cycling history. And his big deal was the aggregation of marginal gains. We're not looking for massive gains on any one thing. We're looking to improve the aerodynamics of the pedals by 1 or 2%, the frame by a couple of percent, the helmet that the cyclists ride by a couple of percent. We're looking to improve the fitness of the riders by 1 or 2%. You add it all up, and if any of you know anything about compound interest, it becomes significant, but you're not making massive changes on any one single thing. What Dave Brailsford calls the aggregation of marginal gains. And that's it. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Karl. That's I think I remember that. So definitely. A lot of people, I mean, focus on their channel first, and then haven't really thought about their target market and their messaging and any of that. So it's so important to get that right. So we have a few comments. Thanks, Melanie. So Melanie's just posted the link to the YouTube library as well, so you can find all the other videos there, and including this one. Are there any questions from the group? Melanie?
Karl, I'd just like to get some clarification from you around who your target audience is. Obviously, you do your seminars and you've got your Auckland Builders Club, but perhaps you could just clarify for us who's your ideal audience or client.
I typically work with micro businesses and the self-employed. I like dealing with people who are the ones getting stuff done. Rather than having those who delegate it out. I have only one client who has delegated out his work, and I work with his PA quite closely. He makes all the decisions. But typically I like being able to sit with somebody who runs their own business, who is in the process of doing the work, help with inspiration and education to make sure they understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, who they're trying to reach, the methods which we're going to use, and then develop hand in hand as part of the Business Builders Club, their own marketing system that's unique to their business and their target audience. So micro businesses and the self-employed are typically my target market. I think my biggest client has like 5 staff.
Awesome, thank you.
Hey, you're muted, Sally.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say thanks, Karl. That was super interesting, and you know, my bad that I haven't got to one of your events yet. So this was really nice that I could join. So bad. You can hold me accountable for that. But yeah, really, really interesting, and yeah, you're really good at explaining and articulating it all, and obviously a lot of tricks up your sleeves. So yeah, look forward to hearing more and maybe even working with you too.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you.
Welcome.
I mean, as mentioned, Sally, you're one of the few people I see at networking events who is very crystal clear when you stand up and do your 60 seconds, who you're targeting and the kind of people as part of your 60 seconds. Now, I know I'm just as guilty at times of not explaining who I'm trying to reach, but you, and this is why I on you do your target market.
Yeah,
really
no, thank you. Yeah, there's lots that I can do. Even when you were talking, you know, and we've had that conversation together about the email marketing, which I'm still yet to have done, and my business is 1.5 years, and I keep saying I'm going to do it. And
so every 2 weeks then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's a hard job doing it all, but yeah, I know I need to do it, and I know once I've done it once, surely it's going to be easier to do again. It's just, yeah, my brain doesn't kind of think like that. That's why we have people like you.
Well, I mean, I say do marketing every day. The hardest part is setting it all up to go. And you know, email marketing up could take you a couple of hours, but sending out an email, you're on my email list, you get an email from me once a week. It takes me maybe 15 minutes to do, and that's then my marketing done for the day. So that's 15 minutes. My social media takes me about an hour to schedule every week. I go to several networking events a week, which, you know, are my marketing for the day. But then make sure that every business card I gather goes into the email list as part of that growing ecosystem for marketing. So it becomes a systemized approach. Doesn't mean you're, you know, sitting in front of the computer every day for 45, 50 minutes. You can do this in as little as 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
But the hardest part is setting it all up in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's what's put me off that side of things. Yeah, interesting.
I manage a lot of stuff for clients, so they've said, look, can you just go, I'll get a login, I'll pay for the email account, for example, you just go in and set it up.
Yeah.
So it, you know, there's ways around it.
Yeah, so, okay, cool. Thanks, Karl.
We need to start kicking the fence you're sitting on. That's what we
need. Yeah.
Definitely some opportunities for one-on-one catch-ups for sure. Thanks, Sally. Malcolm, you had a question?
Yeah, hi, Karl. That's great, thank you. A great high-level overview. I work as a business coach with a national advisory group, and I have to say, and please, Dan, you and I have discussed this, I don't take offence, but there's just so many providers out there, you know, channel providers and people who do sort of provide the individual disciplines, I suppose, you know, the Facebook exporter or the website builder or what have you. But to find somebody who says, look, that's kind of about the third step in the process. We need to understand, you know, who your target client is, and you know, the other notes are made about, you know, the Whitlam and so on is so relevant. It's just no point in, you know, deciding Facebook or whatever until you understand who you're selling to. So I really appreciate that overview. Thank you. It's good to have somebody like you that actually starts, you know, they're right at the very top of the tree as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Malcolm. It is so true. And the number of times I've seen here where, and I'm going to pick on marketing agencies because the quality, since I've been in Auckland, many of the marketing agencies I've seen would not survive in Britain. They genuinely wouldn't, because word would quickly get around about the rubbish service they provide, the outrageous fees that they seem to want, for even some of the most basic stuff. I've got a client who paid $8,500 for a very basic website here in Auckland from a well-known agency. And what he got for his money shouldn't have cost him but half that.
Yeah.
And it was just out, and I was fuming for him because he just chucked a load of money at a guy who was in his networking group. It wasn't a TNG. It rhymes with CSI. And not that saying there's anything wrong with that, but the guy talked a good talk and sold him this website that was just way too expensive. But the point I'm trying to make is that they didn't actually talk to him about his target audience at all. They took his money, built him a website, which looked pretty, but hasn't actually served him at all. And to me, that's a wasted opportunity to keep a customer and help a customer properly. You know, I used to run a web design business, and we always start, the first discussion was who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to say to them before we even looked at design. Because until we could get those two nailed, it will just go into the same category of most websites, which is probably 95+% of websites that never pay for themselves. So it's always has to start with your audience, no matter what you do. Someone will say, or anybody, if you're willing to spend some money, will take it from you on whatever channel you want to choose. They can talk a good game about Facebook ads, as you mentioned, but who's to say Facebook ads are right for your business? I'm working with a property manager at the moment, and we're running retargeting on Facebook, but we're not using Facebook to directly advertise. because it would just be a waste of money. So yeah, I rant a lot about marketing agencies because I've seen some really, really bad practice since I've been here. I've got one client who'd spent $18,000 with one of Auckland's best known marketing agency over the space of just over a year, and with no new customers to show for it. And you think, well, that ain't a great return on investment. Well, why are you still spending money with these guys? I don't know. Sorry, I went on a rant. Sorry, guys.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right.
In my view, marketing, for the time and effort you put in, should always provide some kind of return on investment, and it always needs to be monitored. If it doesn't, you either need to ditch it, you either need to change it or ditch it in favor of something which stands a better chance of getting your broadcast across to your audience. And that is always an acid test. Does it actually provide a return on investment? Ultimately. And I include me and the work that I do. If I'm not providing value and you don't think it's good value for money, then we'll part ways. Let's not be under any illusion. If I can't provide value for customers, and I say let's not do it. Because I am a marketing channel. I'm a marketing channel. I am a marketing coach. I don't like using the word, but if what I'm doing isn't working for you, then let's just shake hands and say we tried.
I think there needs to be a lot more of that sort of honesty. Karl, I had a really interesting, I'll just share with the group quickly. We have real problems with chartered accountants and business advisors. Generally they're a group that don't look upon us as being particularly credible, but they also have concerns about, taking clients away from them and so on and so forth. But when I peel that back and say, why is it that, business coaches generally don't get a lot of traction with a lot of business here? The reality is that in many, many cases, they don't provide value. We as suppliers, we all have to ask ourselves that question, where's the ROI?
Yep.
And okay, branding, I know, is a specific part of things. And obviously those people with great international brands spend a lot of money on them. But, New Zealand's a small business economy.
Yep.
600,000 of us, and we need to see return on investment. So I love the point you've made there as well. It's not too harsh. I wish there'd be harsher discussions among the New Zealand business community around this. We just take crap all over the place, unfortunately.
Well, I've got 3 clients who had the Activate Auckland funding earlier this year, $7,000 each. And not one of them, had they spent that money out of their own pocket, would have made even that money back, let alone a profit on the sales that they made as a result of it. I've got one e-commerce client, sells hampers. He'd spent all this bloody money on Google advertising. When I looked at the campaign, it was thrown together. And they wanted him to continue advertising. And I said, well, hang on a minute, £7,000, how much have you sold? And he said about 1,500. Sold 1,500. So your net profit is about 40%. So you've made a net profit of about $650 out of spending $7,000. And they want you to carry on spending. Why would you do that? But it's so common. And sorry. I get quite passionate about this because I'm a small business. I've been in small business most of my life, and I hate to see other small businesses being right royally paled over a barrel. I'll stop talking now. My head's getting hot.
If I could, it's really refreshing to hear what you're saying, because I agree totally. As small business owners, we end up spending a lot of money, the hard-earned money, and it's not getting us to where we want to go. I did SEO with one of the so-called best companies, did my research, and it was a waste of money, basically. And that's, I think, New Zealand business and marketing, it does have to change. There is a lot that they want to do your product, but they're not looking at what you just said there, your audience, what you differentiate, to what it was about, brag, boast about what you do individually, and then the channels that you should do it on. They don't look at that approach. But thank you for sharing. You made it very simple, but not necessarily easy to do.
Oh, no. Simple isn't always easy.
But could you tell me a little bit more about what your your marketing club is? Could you just explain that again?
So as a member, we have a one-to-one discussion twice a month about what it is you're doing. And what I try and do is I try and steer you in the direction of doing the right things to reach your target audience.
Right.
As opposed to just, I mean, I got one client who, I've got to tell you this. He'd signed up with some woman in his networking group, rhymes with CSI. There's a bit of a pattern here, who talked a great talk about, getting your word out there on social media. He was a startup electrician. And so I said, okay, that's great. He'd signed up. He'd been with us about 3 months before he joined the club. And I said, well, look, okay, well, how much are you spending? And he says, I'm spending $350 a month. I said, what channels is she using? And he said, well, it's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I said, okay, I took a look at his channels. And I said, you've got no followers on Twitter. He said, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, it's like going to a networking event where I'm paying a bunch of money for it, where there's just you and the organizer in the room.
Yeah.
I said, you're literally shouting into an empty room. So you need to ditch Twitter. I said, you've got 4 followers on Instagram. And he said, and for an electrician, Instagram's, unless you're going to spend some money, a bit of a waste of space. So you need to ditch Instagram because you're spending money on it. And in the end, he just fired her and he said, can you show me how to do this for myself? So I said, yeah. So he paid for me to sit down with him and training on how to use Facebook, which took all of about 45 minutes. He says, I could do this in 5 minutes a day. I said, yes, you can. Forget the $300 a month that you're spending with this, albeit well-meaning, but a bit misguided, in my opinion, social media expert. And just do it because it can be quite simple. And there's nothing wrong with doing it for yourself, but it's a case of having the knowledge to understand A, why you're doing it in the first place, and then B, are you doing the right things to reach your audience? And my mission ultimately, as with the Auckland Business Builders Club, is to make myself redundant by giving you the tools that you need to do your own marketing, completely well informed as to what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it needs to work going forward. And I've got 2 clients who've been with me a year and they're not far off becoming self-sufficient, which is brilliant for me. Yes, I'll be sad to see them go and they'll probably pay me to do other stuff and help them along the way. But from my point of view, I'm looking at that and thinking, well, they're going to be a success story because their marketing works now.
Yes.
Before it didn't.
So in other words, you're going to help get the marketing system for that business, work out the audience and help through the whole system. Is that what you do?
Yeah. The idea is to guide clients to develop their own system according to what the audience they're trying to reach and what they're trying to reach them. As a good example, and I've got a company that sells sports equipment as a client. Good to see you, Sally. I'll be on your case about email marketing soon.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thanks, Karl. Sorry, team. Bye. Bye.
But just as an example, this sports equipment company, they sell to schools. So I said, here's what I want you to do. Pick on 10 fairly big schools, high schools in your region, and find out who the head of sports is. And they're easy to find. Typically, they're on the school website, for example. And I want you to put one of your catalogues and a big bar of Whittaker's chocolate in a brightly coloured envelope and send them. Just 10. I said, why would I do that? And I said, because when you phone up, you've got something other than what you do to talk about. So he sent, well said, Chantal. He sent out 10 bars of chocolate, had 5 conversations and picked up 3 sizable leads on the back of it. Now, each lead is going to be worth minimum $15,000 in sales for him for a $4 bar of chocolate. Yeah. So now the key thing is, it just means that when he picked up the phone to talk to this person, I'm just checking to make sure they got the chocolate I sent, not the catalogue or not the sports, talk about sports equipment, we want to talk about chocolate. And he had chats with 3 other people who didn't a week later who said, well, I didn't get the envelope. And he says, no, it was a bright green envelope with some chocolate in it. You've got to go find it. And he says, phone me back next week when I've had a look. And it's just a great door opener, but it was a creative way of just saying, you know, let's do something different. And for them, because they needed more proactive marketing, that's going to work a treat. And so I said, why not send a bar of chocolate with every proposal, and just to have a label on it that says something to sweeten the deal. And it just makes people smile, but you get remembered. And it means that when you next have a conversation, you've got something other than work to talk about. And it's just ideas and stuff like that. Chocolate is brilliant. I'm a big fan of chocolate. I eat way too much of the stuff. But in terms of, you know, a business idea, a marketing idea, if you want to do outreach to people you never reach, and you can do postal marketing with follow-up, then it just works. I've got another client who runs a plumbing company in the East Coast Bays, no, on the Hibiscus Coast up here in Auckland. And she's really poor at follow-ups. Good to see you, Malcolm. All the best. So I said, okay, why are you poor at follow-ups? And this is nothing to do with marketing. This is just a pure sales process. And she said, well, I just don't seem to get time for it. And I said, well, when's the last time you made an appointment with yourself to do follow-ups on a weekly basis? I've never done that. I said, okay, but you make time for other stuff, right? She said, oh yeah. I said, okay, are sales important to you? And she said, yes, they are. I said, are sales follow-ups worth making an appointment with yourself on a Tuesday and a Thursday for half an hour each, just to do the sales follow-ups? And she said, oh yeah. Makes absolute logical sense.
Yeah.
And this is where the system comes into play. So that's going to form part of her marketing system. Twice a week for half an hour at a time, she's just going to dedicate to sales follow-ups, following up on proposals. They send out loads of proposals, easily a dozen decent sized proposals a month.
Wow.
But follow-up is poor. So, and I said, you know, stick a bar of chocolate in with every proposal. I promise you it will get noticed. Some will even phone you back, more than they would do ordinarily, but make sure that you're following up. And don't just send it on an email, stick it in an envelope as well, particularly if it's a sizable job, with a bar of chocolate. And it's just it's a nudge, and it becomes a touch point. And this is what marketing is. It's the stuff you do to get and keep customers. But if they get that sale based on that, a little bar of chocolate and a bit of a nudge and an effective sales process, then it means that your success rates going forward will be considerably higher, and hers will be considerably higher.
Yeah, because it's attention grabbing, isn't it? Something a bit different. Yeah.
Hang on, I'm just going to reply to Malcolm.
Just heading off. Yeah. So what was that, Richard?
Yeah, it's attention grabbing. It's just something a little bit different.
Well, the hardest part about all marketing is just getting their attention in the first place. I saw a study a few years ago. On any given day, we're exposed to as many as 3,000 different messages. And that's just phenomenal. Now, how many of those are marketing messages? I don't know. But the standing out is actually, funnily enough, I realized since I've come to New Zealand, standing out isn't actually that difficult. You know, if you want to be a successful estate agent, don't just do this on the back of a bus. You know, they all do it. And you think, well, what's different about you? You know, what's what's that pretty shirt and the pose like everybody else? What are you doing differently? You're not. So there must be something in legislation in New Zealand. Estate agents need to do this. And it's just crazy. So you look around at your target audience and you think, well, are these guys all looking the same? Genuinely, are they all looking the same? And you'll find that a lot of them are. And even amongst the marketing agencies themselves, there's little to make them stand out. They'll say the same things as a lot of other marketing agencies. Their websites, for example, there's massive similarity between a lot of them. Even the web designers, the irony is the web designers don't actually design very unique websites for themselves. A lot of them, that's not all of them. I mean, there are exceptions, but it is just one of the very good friend of mine who is a business coach in Christchurch. He was my first business coach in the UK, 11 years ago now. And when I came over here a couple of years ago, obviously we had good catch up, etc., good chin wag. And I talked about what I was going to do. And she said, well, you'll find it's not actually that difficult to stand out around here. You're just going to do something slightly different. But she says, what will make the big difference is phoning people back quickly and responding to emails promptly. Because people in New Zealand, and I've experienced it a lot, people just don't. They take the time or they just don't. Well, it's a question of giving a shit. I'll give you a good example. Last year in the rental house that I was in, I needed the light fittings were all drafty. So I wanted to buy some little plastic discs that I was going to stick on. So I contacted 3 plastics companies, specified that I want 10 centimetre wide, 5 mil deep, non-milled edges, clear perspex discs. I need 30 of them. I'm still waiting on a response from 2 of them. And the only one that got back to me did so 2 weeks later. And they wanted stupid money. Last year, I ran a seminar in April. It took me 4 attempts to find a venue. 2 of them didn't come back to me. 1 of them wanted silly money. And the last one I tried was a charity on the North Shore. They emailed me back within an hour and we'd done the deal right there and then. And I've been raving about them ever since.
Yeah.
And, because obviously, if they don't get back to you, there's one of 2 things happening. They either just don't give a shit or they're making too much money. They don't need the money.
Cool.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You need to give a shit. It's the gas factor. Give a shit. Because a lot of people don't.
Thanks everyone. We're
don't quote me on that. No, don't make
That's going to be the headline of the YouTube
thanks.
video. Yeah. How to do your marketing. Give a shit,
You know what? If that became the message and people took it on board, the marketing world would change.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pointless having great marketing if you don't answer the bloody phone and you don't phone people back when they leave you a message.
So no, it's
I'm going to do a video on that actually. You know what? That's a good topic.
There you go. You're welcome. Let's go.
I should write this one down.
No, perfect, guys. All right. Well, we're a little bit short for time, but there's a small group of us left, so we'll just do a quick wrap around the room. So introduce yourself, be specific, because that's what Karl has just asked you to do. And then we can go into the weekend and get energized, and then go into next week full of energy and willing to give a shit for our clients, fight for them. So let's go. So I'm just going to start with Richard, and then we'll go around.
Oh, good morning, everybody. I'm Richard Gardner from Always Property Management. So I manage rental properties in the Manawatu and Tauranga region, and we specialise in optimising our landlords' returns. I started investing in property back in 2003, and then started Always Property 6 years later. So we were dealing with a lot of property managers in the early days, and it gave me great insight into the industry. And I learned firsthand the fundamental, most important aspect of property management is communication, being authentic and transparent, giving a shit for in the industry is really important. And it's a fundamental aspect, actually, of property management. Tenants are customers and deserve to be treated as such. A happy tenant equals a happy landlord. So an ideal client is for me is a landlord wanting professional, trustworthy service, and who understands the importance of looking after tenants is the best way to look after the investment.
Good stuff, Richard.
Alrighty.
I like the geography, the geographical demographic. That's good.
Chantal.
Sorry, guys, I have 3 screens and the mouse was like, woo. So that was a minute away. So hi, everyone. I am Chantal. I own Vantage. So we are a virtual assistant firm based in the Waikato in New Zealand, doing awesome virtual assistants. So bookkeeping, administration, website design, graphic design for clients all over New Zealand. So I guess what we would offer for people. Oh, put you on the spot, right? You've just been told what not to do in a 60 seconds. Funny. So I guess for us, we want to work with people who want to grow their businesses. That's what we're here for. And we work specifically with trades in the ag industry. So if you were looking for someone to refer to us, it would be an electrician who needs some office management help. So maybe they haven't got some great processes going on. That would be the perfect client to refer to us. So thanks, everyone. Have a lovely weekend.
What's an
Thanks,
ag? What's
that, Carl?
What's an ag client?
An ag client. Oh, so like agriculture. So anyone
right.
working in the ag industry.
Gotcha.
Or the egg industry, you know.
I thought you said, I genuinely thought you said egg. I thought, what?
That is very specific. Yeah.
That's niche.
Yeah. Alrighty, Helen. Let's hear from you.
Hi, my name's Helen Mcdermott. I'm a solicitor at Fisher Foley. I've recently changed to this firm and we're in the CBD in Auckland. What makes me different as a lawyer is I didn't grow up in a family full of lawyers. I grew up in the Waikato. I came to law late in life. I offer a personalised service, and I offer a service which may not be your stereotypical big CBD law firm experience. I listen. One of my first questions will always be, well, what do you actually want to achieve? I won't try and lead you down the garden path. I won't try and sell you to go into full-on litigation, which is my specialist field. Litigation, mostly family, is my passion. I won't necessarily steer you down that route, even though I know it will generate me a lot of business and a lot of fees if we can sort it out outside of court easy. I also have, to mention the dreaded A word, I'm also have an accounting background. I qualified as an accountant before I went to law school. So while I'm not interested in being an accountant, it does help me with my law background. So often with litigation, even family stuff, it always comes back to money in the end. So the accounting side, my knowledge in that field also helps me to advise my clients on that side. So yeah, if you want a lawyer who's honest, upfront, will tell you the real story and listen to you and give you some ideas that may not be I like to think outside the box sometimes. So anyone that wants a straight talking lawyer who's upfront, honest and realistic, down to earth, that's me. I'm Helen, I'm associate at Fisher Foley and I'm in the process of becoming a partner here. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. It's me, I'm Dan. So I run Ingot Design, which is a digital design studio based in Hamilton. So what we do is we work with businesses who are generally established, they've been in business for a few years, they've got a website, but they need to improve it. They need to add in new functionality, or they've got tons of different things and different apps and third-party services that they use. And it's, you know, making them go grey, and they want to consolidate that into a platform that's easy to use and manage, that also looks kick-ass, because we do the design and we also do the custom web development. So that's a space that we love to work in, is bigger businesses generally wanting to expand, get into that next season, and really have a website that's a tool that's profitable, that looks badass, and is going to set them apart from their clients. And absolutely what Karl was saying around understanding your target market and having your brand strategy, having that all set before you even put a pixel on the page, it's so important. Because a lot of time we, on the other end of the spectrum, we also work with small business owners where we're giving advice, so they generally come through the Regional Business Partners Network or something like that, where they're just starting out. And before anything happens, you need to know your target market, you need to know what you're selling, you need to know where your point of difference is in the industry. And there's so much that, you know, oftentimes they come to us with wanting answers, and we just ask them more questions because there's so much that they don't know themselves that they should know before they yeah. So anyway, I digress. I've spent my minute definitely blabbing on, but that's me. So I'll take the ingot cap off, and then from a TNG perspective, we've obviously got the tenure. TNG has been around for 10 years, which is fantastic. Which is probably a good segue to have a chat to Melanie, who can tell us a little bit about the TNG desk.
Hi everybody, I'm Melanie from the networking group. At the networking group, kindly called TNG, we're committed to connecting, improving and growing New Zealand businesses through structured networking. Today's environment is our TNG Online Connect NZ, and this is to provide both TNG members and our visitors the opportunity to hear from epic speakers and learn from experts in their field, to connect beyond your geographical networks and to promote your businesses through a 60-second elevator pitch. So today, Karl, thank you so much. Today we had Karl Craig West from Auckland Business Builders. I will definitely be buying your book, Smashing Unemployment, which you said was available on Amazon. Yeah. So this session was recorded today and will be available on our YouTube library. So we ask everyone to please share it across your network so that we can help Craig to grow his business in the TNG network. Yeah. So thanks very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Melanie.
Quick tip for you, Dan. When I had the web design business, we offered a money-back guarantee with our websites, which no other website designer dared even to do. We sold loads on the back of it.
Yeah, wow.
And the guarantee worked like this. If you do what we tell you and will teach you to do to build and promote your website when it's launched, and it doesn't pay for itself and we can't fix it, you get a refund. And all we asked them to do was to write 3 blog posts a month and share each blog post out on at least 3 social media channels. Interestingly enough, in the 7 years we offered the money back guarantee, we only had to refund 1. But no one else in the market was willing to put their money where their mouth was.
No.
The T's and C's were there to say, you know, if you don't tick these boxes, then you invalidate the guarantee.
Yeah, for sure.
If you write regular blog posts and if you share them out, then your website will steadily climb the rankings. You will get traffic. You will get visitors.
Yeah. One thing building an awesome site. It's another thing entirely doing the search engine optimization well. Yeah. And then because that plays a huge part. So it's definitely. And hey, it's been a journey for us, well, learning what works, what doesn't, and it's a very competitive game. But yeah, definitely money back guarantees. Something I'll have to pitch at the next board meeting with all the million people that I involved. You know, it's it's great. Thanks so much, Karl. Really appreciate it. If you have any more tips that you think I'll benefit from, hey, send them my way. We'll send them Melanie's way, and we'll create another 30-minute session about it, because you get never too old to learn. As you guys can tell, I'm awfully young, you know, no grey hair, no whatsoever, no wrinkles. It's fantastic. Long may it last. So.
Yeah, you're not funny.
hey, like I thought you were the comedian here. Like, no, awesome. Well, I'm not here to make enemies. Love and friendship and kind feelings and yeah, giving a shit. Like that's the #1 takeaway from today. So, hey, thanks everyone. We'll obviously be back in a fortnight, same time, 10:30 on Friday, and we've got some epic guest speakers lined up. So thanks again, Karl. Really informative session. Thanks everyone for joining. Helen, Richard, Chantal, and also to Melanie. Thank you. So go into the weekend. Well,
have fun.
Cool. Thanks, Dan. Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks, Karl.
Bye.
Awesome. Cheers.